Welcome to this explainer on enterprise AWS cloud migration. If you're an IT leader, a CTO, or cloud architect, the idea of moving an entire enterprise to the cloud, well, it can feel like this massive, incredibly daunting infrastructure project. But here's the reality. Migrating to AWS, it isn't just about unplugging servers and moving cables around. It's a fundamental business transformation. And today, we're going to unpack the proven strategies that separate those chaotic, over-budget migrations from the seamless, high ROI transformations your enterprise actually needs. Let's get right into it.
So here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at why migrations fail. Then, the blueprint using MAP and the 7 Rs. After that, the actual execution of server and database migrations. Then we'll cover the shield, which is security and compliance. Next, the reward of post-migration optimization. And finally, we'll tie it all together into the complete lifecycle.
I want to kick things off with this stark reality straight from our source material. Listen to this. Migrations don't typically fail because AWS technology is unreliable. Actually, AWS is vastly more reliable than most on-premises data centers. No, they fail because teams systematically underestimate their own application complexity. And frankly, they overestimate their own readiness. But here's the good news. Because these failures are so predictable, they are entirely preventable, as long as you use a structured framework. Which brings us to Section 1, Why Migrations Fail, focusing on the 5 structural failure modes. Now, what's really fascinating here is how every single technical misstep translates directly into a severe financial consequence. Imagine finding hidden dependencies right in the middle of your project. Boom, that's a massive 6 to 18 month delay and a huge budget overrun. Or what about lifting and shifting everything exactly as is without optimizing? That completely erodes your business case with bloated, unnecessary cloud bills. You've also got security gaps, potential data loss from database underestimation, and this trap of post-migration stagnation where FinOps is just completely ignored. But don't worry, the structured AWS framework we are about to discuss systematically neutralizes every single one of these threats. Let's move right into the solution in Section 2, the blueprint, AWS MAP, and the 7 Rs taxonomy. This right here is the AWS Migration Acceleration Program, or MAP for short. It operates in 3 non-negotiable phases. First up is assess, where you replace manual guesswork with automated data to build a solid business case. Next is mobilize, which is all about building your secure landing zone. And finally, migrate and modernize, where you execute risk-sequenced wave planning. By forcing discipline through these 3 specific gates, MAP literally stops migration failures before they even start. Now, during that assess phase, every single application gets categorized into a 7 Rs strategy. You've got rehost, which is your classic lift and shift. Relocate for hypervisors. Replatform, where you tweak things a bit before moving. Refactor, which is a full cloud-native redesign. Repurchase to just move to a SaaS alternative. Retire for old apps, or retain to just keep them on-prem. The crucial takeaway? Assigning the wrong strategy is an incredibly expensive mistake. For example, if you rehost an app that desperately needs refactoring, you are instantly creating a mountain of technical debt. Just to put this into perspective, look at this typical enterprise portfolio breakdown for a roughly 200 server environment. Rehost usually takes the biggest slice at 40%, but look right there at retire sitting at 20%. Decommissioning a fifth of your dormant or duplicate applications before you even migrate, that reduces your cloud footprint immediately. It's like finding money in your couch cushions. It can often self-fund a massive chunk of the entire migration program. Okay, let's get into the technical trenches with Section 3, the execution, server and database migration. For those rehost applications we talked about, the AWS Application Migration Service, often called MGN, uses a really elegant 4-stage architecture. First, an installed agent performs an initial sync. Then, it enters continuous, near real-time, block-level replication. Next, you test everything in a safely isolated environment. And finally, the magic part. Upon cutover, only the very last fraction of a second of data needs to sync. This literally shrinks those agonizing, stressful weekend cutovers down to a breezy 10 to 30-minute window. But what about databases, right? Databases are easily the most complex and failure-prone components because obviously you absolutely cannot afford to lose production data. Enter the AWS Database Migration Service and specifically a concept called Change Data Capture, or CDC. CDC essentially reads the source database's transaction log and applies those changes to the cloud target in near real time. Understanding CDC is absolutely vital. It's the exact mechanism that makes those near zero downtime database migrations possible. Honestly, a migration cutover should feel boring. If it feels adventurous, you definitely miss something. That is exactly why having a strict, pre-agreed readiness checklist is critical. We're talking target latency under 5 seconds for at least 30 minutes, row counts matching perfectly, checksums validated, stored procedures converted, and crucially, a pre-agreed maximum rollback decision time. These aren't just suggestions, they are what protects your data integrity. Moving right along to Section 4, the Shield, Security and Compliance Operations. So when you move to AWS, you operate under the shared responsibility model. It's a real game changer because certain heavy burdens just lift completely off your team's shoulders. Things like physical data center security and hypervisor patching, AWS handles that now. But, and this is a big but, you have to embrace the new responsibilities. You are now entirely responsible for configuring your virtual private cloud roles, managing identities, and handling operating system patching inside the cloud. Listen, if you take away only one architectural rule from this entire explainer, please make it this one. The landing zone must be fully built before your very first production workload migrates. Your landing zone is your multi-account architecture, your identity management, your central logging, the whole shebang. If you try to retrofit these security guardrails onto running cloud apps later, you will break them. Always lay the foundation first. Now for the fun part, Section 5, the reward, post-migration cost optimization. 25 to 40%. That is the massive cloud spend reduction executives expect to see at the 12-month mark compared to their old on-prem costs. But here is the secret that nobody tells you. That number doesn't just magically happen because you moved to AWS. It only happens through active, continuous optimization. Post-migration, you really have to apply the AWS well-architected framework. That means focusing on reliability, security, performance, cost optimization, and operational excellence to trim down the waste from over-provisioned servers. I mean, with 40 to 60% of enterprise servers running below 20% CPU capacity, you absolutely have to right-size those instances. You turn on S3 intelligent tiering for older data. You're optimizing for performance and reliability here, not just slashing costs. And check this out. Once your workloads stabilize post-migration, which usually takes about 4 to 8 weeks, committing to AWS reserved instances or savings plans can yield up to a staggering 72% discount compared to standard on-demand prices. When you combine that with right-sizing, that is the ultimate key to unlocking enterprise cloud ROI. Let's bring it all together now in our final section, the complete lifecycle, a successful 12-month outcome. When you zoom out over the full 12-month transformation, you see how perfectly everything links together. Months 1 and 2 are all about that data-driven assessment and assigning your 7 Rs. Months 2 and 3, that's when you establish your multi-account landing zone. Then, months 3 through 9 are your execution waves. You move the low-risk apps first and save the mission-critical stuff for last. Finally, months 9 through 12 are where you lock in those savings through well-architected optimization. I want to leave you with a bit of a provocative thought as we wrap up this explainer. The companies that fail on the cloud, they treat migration as a project with a hard end date. But the companies that truly succeed realize that a successful migration isn't just about relocating servers. It's about unlocking continuous cloud agility, security, and financial optimization long after cutover day. So ask yourself, is your migration a completed project or is it just the beginning?